Hello, and welcome to The Pool is Abstract, where we're currently rewatching and dissecting the revived series of Doctor Who, episode by episode. My name is Connor, and with me is the person I like to sit down and watch Doctor Who with. It's Charlotte. Hi, Charlotte.
Hello. I wish I owned a Meeper shirt.
Yes. I'm just going to be transparent here and say that intro Charlotte gave me because I struggled to think of one.
You're welcome.
It was a good one. It's better than anything I came up with. Yeah. How you doing? You tired again? Yeah. Right, Charlotte, today, this episode. Wow. So we covered Series 15, or Season 2, Episode 2. It's called LUX. It aired yesterday at the time of recording on the 19th of April 2025 and was written by Russell T Davies. Without going into spoilers, I guess, how do you feel about this one? Again, as same as last week, we've not really spoken about this at all since watching, so this is all fresh.
I'd just like to put a little thing out there, just for people to think about. We went on a little walk today in the nice weather,
yeah.
And the two of us found it quite difficult not to talk about this. It was Connor was like, "So what do you think about it?" And I was like, "I can't talk to you about this." And he was like, "What do you think about this compared to the first season?" "I can't talk to you about this."
Yeah. I can't go a day without asking people what they thought of Doctor Who. You know, so it's like, we're just.
I feel very mixed.
I know I bet I know one thing you're gonna say as a criticism, and I feel like I might share that criticism with you.
Yeah.
But in general, did you like this episode?
I did.
Okay, I thought you were going to add to that. Okay.
I did like this. I enjoyed it. However,
this is a lot. There's a lot going on here.
There's a lot to take in,
yes.
And there is things that I was a bit disappointed that we didn't get.
I feel like I know what that is.
Yeah.
But yeah, this episode finished, and normally with Doctor Who, obviously, as time goes on and you sit with it and you watch it multiple times, your opinion can go up or down on rewatches and stuff. This episode, I even with that in mind, I normally know after watching it the first time roughly how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We watched The Robot Revolution. I enjoyed it. But in the end, I knew it wasn't spectacular. It was a solid 5 out of 10 episode.
Yeah.
I have no idea what I would score this.
No.
I finished this and I was like, I have no idea what I think about this. There's just so much going on, and it boggles me. Even more so than The Devil's Cord did last year.
Oh yeah, the Devil's Cord didn't bother or boggle me at all last year. It
boggled me a little bit because obviously the whole format was a bit weird, because that's when we started getting more of our fourth wall breaks, and obviously the whole musical number.
This one went wild.
Yeah, you're talking about meta.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to talk about without getting into spoilers, so should we just go for it?
Okie dokie.
Okay, so the episode begins. We are in a cinema, or a theatre, whatever you want to call it, picture house, in Miami, 1952. There's a film being projected on the screen. It seems to be about the atom bomb. We see the projectionist is making himself a cup of tea. Or coffee. I assume tea, but I don't know. After he makes it, he puts the spoon down, and then he goes into the reel room, and where they've got all the film reels and canisters and stuff. And he pulls out. I paused it to read what this was. It's called Mr. Ring-a-Ding Goes to Town. I did this painstaking frame by frame pausing to try and find what was handwritten on the film canister, only to realise that when he puts it on, the title card is on the screen. Mr. Ring-a-Ding Goes to Town. Released in 1934. We get this moment of him hooking it up to the projector. And, I immediately thought while watching this, film projectors are cool, man.
Yeah, I agree. I was watching this. I was like, oh, this is very visually appealing.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this. Even just when he opens the closet and you see them all there. And the way he just kind of picks it off the shelf and then just slowly...
Yeah.
And the way he changes them over as well, where he catches the tape from the last one.
The whole appeal of listening to something on vinyl instead of a CD or Spotify or whatever, it's kind of the same as that, but just to a whole other level again, entirely. The way he hooks the film up to the projector, and like you said, he's feeding the film through, and then he's got to time the switch over of the reel so the audience never notice a cut. Just film projectors and reels and that whole machinery is so cool, man.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we had that.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they gave us a little bit of...
This is a good cold open. It's shot really well.
I agree, yeah.
I need to look who directed this episode because I think it's directed very well. But yeah, he hooks the film up to the projector. We see Mr. Ring-a-Ding goes to town, and this is when we see him. We see our boy, Mr. Ring-a-Ding himself, voiced by Alan Cumming.
Yeah.
What do you think about Alan Cumming, his performance in this?
I like his performance in this. I like how chipper he is.
He's very good. Because I think he
is, yeah.
For the most part, Mr. Ring-a-Ding is played to be, I don't know, for comedic effect. He's not trying to be sinister most of the time. He's got that jovial cartoon thing going on. He's like, da-da-da-da-da, and he's really good at that. And he's got that kind of old 30s style cartoon voice.
Yeah, yeah.
But then later on, when he does have to do that flip, I think he's quite good at that as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, immediate props. Alan Cumming, pretty good in this. This is also when we hear his catchphrase for the first time.
Yeah.
He goes, "Don't make me laugh," which he says multiple times throughout. Yeah. This is when we see the moon kind of comes clear through the clouds, and it shines a beam of light down through a window, which bounces off of the spoon.
Yeah, I was going to say off of the spoon.
And then it bounces onto like a picture or a poster on the wall, reflects off of that into the projector, and then onto the screen. And at this point, Mr. Ring-a-Ding is talking to another character who identifies herself as Sunshine Sally. And he's like, "Sunshine?" He's like, "I'm more interested in moonlight."
I like how his eyes kind of separate as he says this.
Yeah.
Moonlight.
Yeah.
He's like, it's nobody's home as he's saying this.
Because he kind of addresses that moonlight brings him to life or something. And then he goes, "What do you think?" And then he kind of starts talking to the screen, like talking to the people in the theatre.
Yeah.
And there's obviously the theatre's not packed, but there's a few people in there.
Yeah.
And there's this one couple, a man and a woman next to each other, and the man kind of leans over to the woman. He's like, "Man, this is kind of silly, isn't it?" Yeah. And then Mr. Ring-a-Ding like addresses him directly. He goes, What'd you say?" He's like, "You with the glasses."
He's like, "How do they do this?"
Are you talking to me? He's like, "Yes, I'm talking to you." And they're like, "Wow, how are they doing this?" And this is when he basically says he's coming to get them. And this is when we get that shot that we saw from the series trailer where he starts climbing out of the screen and he's huge and everyone starts screaming, and that's a cold open. I like this cold open.
I do as well. Yeah.
It's cool.
It's pretty cool. I like it.
You have something to add.
Let's be fair, I think this isn't really the part that we're going to be discussing. There's so much happens.
Yeah, this episode's dense, is what I'd say. Yeah. I was watching it. Normally
it's very
when I'm
fast-paced, isn't it?
Yeah, normally when I'm watching, I can kind of take notes while watching, and I might have to pause maybe 3-4 times in an episode. With this, I was pausing every other line because there was just so much for me to take in. There was just so much going on. So now after the opening titles, we are in the Tardis, and the Doctor kind of gives us a bit of a recap from the end of last episode. He mentions that he keeps bouncing off of May 24th, 2025, so he can't get Belinda home. Belinda asks if he can get the TARDIS fixed wherever Time Lords are from. She calls it Time Lordia. And he goes, "Oh, I wish it was called that." But he says, "No, it's called Gallifrey." And she's like, "Well, they must have garages on Gallifrey." And she says, "Can't we go there?" And he says, "Maybe another day." How do you feel about this? Because this is like... I know it does seem very Doctor to put it off, but it's not this Doctor, is it? It's like he's shutting himself off again.
I think it's fair because it makes sense, because why would he open up? Because he's literally just going to take it home.
I know.
So for him, it's like, it's going to take a while for me to explain to you why it's not there. Yeah. So I'll just take you another time, which obviously he doesn't plan on doing, and she won't go. So.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, fair enough. But he kind of flips the conversation on her, and he asks about her. He says, you got a girlfriend, boyfriend, other friend?" And she says, "No, just my family, really." She says her dad works in tax. Her mum is a violinist. Her dad's kind of musical, but not really. He does a bit of karaoke now and again, but he can't sing. He's awful.
Oh.
Yeah.
Poor dad.
But she says she really wants to see them again.
Yeah.
And she says, so can you please take me home? So yeah, that's kind of like sad because I don't know, like she's obviously asked this, but I get the impression here already that she doesn't think he can do it, or she thinks he won't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's like, pretty please.
I like the little gadget the doctor brings out because he says they're going to try and...
Yes, so he's while they're having this conversation, he's building like a gadget, and this is about the time he finishes it. He says he's built a vortex indicator, or he calls it a vindicator.
Yeah.
She asks what it does, and he basically says they can land anywhere, and this machine will cast out a signal like a fishing line to the date he wants, and it will pull them in like a hook. So he says, all we got to do is land, baby. So he goes up to the console, hits a couple buttons, and...
He does say, he said it may take us a couple of times landing.
Yeah.
He said we'll get there. I really like this gadget. I like how like mechanical it is and how like it looks like it's made up of a lot of different things.
Yeah, because I say we see him building it, so it does look like it's kind of like made of like high-tech scrap.
Do you know what it kind of reminds me from what I can remember visually? You know Lies of P?
Yes.
The little, they're called like the moon dials or
the stargazers.
The stargazers. It reminds me of those.
Yeah.
Kind of in its shape. But I
Yeah.
think they're quite cute. I like them.
Yeah. So anyway, he pulls the lever, the TARDIS does its usual shaking around, and he says they've landed on Earth in 1952. But he's like, of course you want to go home, so you stay here. I'm going to go take a quick look outside. She goes, not a chance, and she like pushes past him and goes to run out the door until she stops, and then she realizes she's still in her pajamas.
Yeah.
She's like, I slept in these clothes. She's like, can that get me arrested in 1952? And he says, oh, this is the fun bit, honey. And then he like drags her off.
Yeah.
And we basically get that exact same sequence from the Devil's Cord, where him and Ruby like run off through, like up the ramp through this door on the bottom level, and then in the same shot just pop out like seconds later on the upper floor, like fully dressed.
Yeah. I love this.
Apparently, I didn't realize this, but I found out after watching the episode, apparently this sequence was leaked like months ago. Like people have seen this clip.
Oh.
Of him and Belinda coming out. I missed that.
I think I'd seen it.
I don't know how you seen it and I didn't, but I
thought I saw it in a trailer.
I don't think he was in the trailer. I think it was a leaked thing. But I tend to engage in a lot of like Doctor Who stuff on social media.
Yeah.
But at the same time, when a new series is coming out, I try to stay as far away as I can because I don't want leak spoilers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I don't want to see sequences and stuff before I see the episode. I don't want teases of which characters or which actors might be coming back. I don't want any of that.
Yeah.
'Cause that takes the magic away from it. So I like being part of the discussion afterwards and the hype leading up to it, but I don't want to be part of that theory guessing stuff because it ruins the ride for me, I think.
But yeah, I love this. It's kind of, is it called Stars in Their Eyes? Is that the TV show where like everyday people, it was like in the noughties, 90s, everyday people would go into one door and they'd come out and they'd be like dressed as Elvis. It'd be like a quick...
Yeah.
And then they'd do like an Elvis impression.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was Stars. I didn't watch it, but I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it kind of gives that vibes, but I just love this. I love all the outfits.
How do you feel about the outfits in this one? Because in my head, I think Belinda looks good.
Oh,
I don't like the Doctor's outfit. I think the Doctor's outfit looked better in the Devil's Cord. I think he suited the longer hair, like the bigger fro, and I think his outfit was a bit more dapper as well in the Devil's Cord. He's got this weird kind of like bow tie.
I like his outfit. He seems more like in the Devil's Court. He's more like
he was cool in the Devil's Court.
Yeah, but I think that's the whole point. Like in the Devil's Court, it's kind of like he's more stylish.
Yeah.
Whereas this is more like polished, if you know what I mean. Like he seems like he would be a professional, or like he was going somewhere smart. Whereas like the other one was kind of like it was his style and he was expressing himself.
Yeah, I just don't like. I think Belinda looks good, but
I love Belinda's outfit.
I don't think the Doctor looks great in this outfit.
Yeah, I love the yellow dress and I love her hair. I love how they've done it.
It
all looks great.
I don't like the Doctor because the Doctor's hair here is longer than his hair normally, when he's just in his like trench coat outfit. But it's obviously not the throw it was before. It's this weird kind of in between. I don't think it works.
It's styled. It's like gelled, isn't it? And it's got like a wave to it.
I don't like it.
I like it. I think it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, they leave the TARDIS now all dressed, and they are in Miami, Florida, next to a cinema. The Doctor notices that it's 4 a.m.
Yeah.
He says, "Oh, we got dressed up just for no one to see." And then there's a moment I quite like where he looks down at his hands and he goes, "That might be wise."
Yeah. Oh, God. I know it's brought up a couple of times in this episode, and it's more than fair, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just makes me so sad that, of course, the Doctor would have to worry about this now.
Yeah.
And I guess it's one of those things that, because the Doctor hasn't been a person of colour before, even though they've had companions who are, they've never had to think about it for themselves.
No, I mean, we've got like the fugitive Doctor, but obviously we never followed her per se, so we don't actually know how they dealt with it. Yeah,
we don't know whether they went back in time where they would be affected, maybe. You know,
I don't. That's what I mean. We don't spend enough time with her to really know where she went or how she would have handled those situations. But yeah, of the main incarnations of 1 through 15, then yeah, you're right.
It just makes me so sad. I'm like,
yeah.
But I think it's brilliant because I think it makes you feel, at least I'm assuming, the same kind of anxiety around, you know, oh God, is this going to be a problem? Like, is something going to happen to them because of this? Yeah. And I guess the Doctor and Belinda would have the same anxiety.
It's one more thing on the table. It's one more thing that could potentially cause an issue or go wrong or come into play that wouldn't otherwise have been there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just kind of adds to that. But yeah, Belinda looks at the cinema, and she sees, you know, on those old kind of American-style multiplexes where people used to write out, like, the movies currently playing, like, by hand with, like, letters on the front. And she sees Rock Hudson in The Harvest Bringer. And she says, Rock Hudson obviously being a prolific, like, Hollywood actor back in, like, the golden era or whatever. She says they did him on their HIV training course.
Yeah.
And she said it's kind of sad because she knows what happens to him. So that's interesting as well. The fact that this is, I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, Rock Hudson, like say, big A-list like Hollywood actor in the golden era of Hollywood. I think he passed away in the 80s, I want to say, from like AIDS complications.
Yeah.
Obviously, Belinda being a nurse, she's saying that she kind of did him. Well, I say did him.
Yeah,
studied him, I guess.
Studied the effects. Yeah.
Yeah, on a HIV training course. So that's just, again, one of those little things that kind of reminds you what Belinda does, and it's like, it's not forced, I don't think. It's very kind of naturally woven in.
And I like the fact that it's, for those who don't know that name, you can get in a quick snippet that...
Yeah, for all you, he could be fictional.
Yes,
I mean, for all you know.
He's a movie star, and...
Yeah.
He obviously had AIDS.
Yeah.
Or had AIDS.
Had HIV. Belinda covered it. And that's the thing. It not only reinforces that Belinda's a nurse, but it also reinforces that she's a caring person, because she takes a moment to stop and says it's so sad.
Yeah.
Like, this time travel thing's so weird because he's here. He's making stuff, but I know what happens to him. And that's weird. Yeah. So, yeah. The Doctor's now finished setting up his vortex indicator, whatever it was, his vindicator. And this is when he notices that the cinema is chained up. So he goes over, he says the chain's like really thick, like as if they're like trying to lock up a beast or something inside. And when they go around to the front, they see a bunch of flowers on the doorstep for multiple different people. Looks like multiple people have disappeared or gone missing. And there's a sign on the door as well that says it's closed to the public by the police.
Do you know what? This is one thing that watching this made me think back to other Who episodes.
Right.
So we've obviously had multiple circumstances in the past where somebody's gone missing or something's happened to somebody.
Yeah.
Have we had circumstances where they've gone and found flowers? Because I don't think we ever have. And I really I thought, well, that's really sweet in the sense of, well, that's usually something people would do.
Flatline. pretty sure that happens.
Oh, yeah, because they had the memorial, didn't they? Yeah, of course,
There's bits, like, I don't think they find something per se, but there's bits in, like, Fear Her, I think, obviously, where the neighborhood kids have started disappearing, where, like, people are aware of it.
Yeah.
I can't remember if they put things out. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head of other times. Yeah, because I'm pretty sure in Flatline, other than the memorial, I'm pretty sure there's a bit just on the other side of that tunnel where people have put flowers down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because it's...
But yeah, it's not as common as you'd think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at this point, the Vindicator kind of bings, it's done. So the Doctor picks it up. He says, yep, cool, great. He says, we might need to land a few more times to triangulate the signal. And he drops it back off in the TARDIS, and Belinda's like, great, we can go, let's go. And the Doctor's kind of making this face like he's itching to go somewhere else. And she's like, Doctor, come on, we gotta go. You need to take me home. And he does this really funny face where he kind of like he screws his face up and purses his lips, like he's like, please. And she goes, oh my God, you want to go investigate? And he's like, yeah. And this is when she says, you're so Scooby-Doo. And he says, honey, I'm Velma. And then, they go over to the nearby diner that's just kind of like across the road from the cinema. And they talk to the bartender. Mm-hmm. What do you think about this bartender, this kid, teenager?
He's
hamming it up.
He is chipper. He
is so hammy this whole episode. I don't know if he's a bad actor, if it was the direction he's given, or what, or where. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. But he's so like, he seems to be the only person in this episode overacting, and it's very weird. It's very weird that this episode features a cartoon character and he's the most animated person in it.
I don't think so. I didn't think he was that bad.
Oh, wait for the ending. My God.
Yeah, I know at the ending he was a bit... But I don't know, because I feel like, because he's quite young, I feel like... Do you mean he gives us a lot of information about the theatre? He seems to know a lot about it. So I don't know whether he's like, oh, it's ghosts, as he says.
You think he's a gossiper?
I think he's kind of like, it's like somebody asking you something that you know, like asking you a question about something you know a lot about, or you've researched a lot. I think he's like, oh, somebody's coming to ask.
I can just spew information at this person. Yeah.
So I think he's kind of like, I know all about this theatre. Kind of like excited.
Yeah, because Belinda and the Doctor ask him about the theatre, about what's happened. And he basically says 3 months ago, people just disappeared from the picture house. They were all... people went in, they never came out. And in fact, the Doctor calls it a cinema, and this kid's like, ooh, I love your English, cinema. Because he just keeps calling it the picture house.
Yeah.
This is when he addresses Mrs. Lowenstein, this lady across the dine, and she's like the only other person in there. And he says that these two, Belinda and the Doctor, have been asking about the palazzo. That's what the theatre's called. And he gives them a bit of a heads up before they go over, saying that her boy went missing. Yeah. He disappeared 3 months ago.
He kind of calls out to her, and he's like, so they're inquiring about...
he says they're asking about it. And she says that I'll talk to anyone about him, about my boy. Yeah. And then she looks at the bottom and says, if you can bend the rules. And this is when he goes, this time of night, who's looking? And he goes out the back.
Yeah.
And this is when Belinda's looking kind of like confused, and the Doctor obviously says that 1952 diners would be segregated, so people of colour and white people wouldn't be sat at the same table, let alone the same side of the diner.
Yeah.
So Belinda's like appalled. She's kind of like, oh, what? And the Doctor says, save it for later, we're busy. And she says, how can you say that? And I love this line. He says, I have toppled worlds. Sometimes I wait for people to topple the world. Until then, I live in it and I shine.
Oh,
I love that. That Shooty's Doctor nailed down to a T, I think.
Yeah, I agree. He's knowing when to pick his battles, and I guess to some degree, I mean, so would Belinda in this sense, but he knows that things will be set in place and things will get better. Yeah. But he's just going to try and make a good impression and do good.
Well, it's the thing. It's not just the fact of knowing, like, hey, I can't fix everything. Sometimes people have to fix their own mistakes.
Yeah.
But it's also that thing of, until then, I live in it and I shine. It's like, he knows, hey, even though people will look at me differently, I know I'm going to be amazing anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to let it stop me. I just think that's him all over.
I agree.
He's great. So they go over to the table, that booth that she's in, and they start speaking to her. She says her boy, Tommy, was that his name?
I think so, yeah.
He was 16 years old, and she says he loves the cinema. He'd go and watch a film like 3 times in a row. She'd be telling him he needs to study, and he'd be looking for any excuse to basically leave and go to the cinema. Belinda asks if the police ever looked into obviously like the disappearance.
Yeah.
And Mrs. Lowenstein says they did. They went over and over, over several days kind of investigating, but they never found anything. And the doctor asks if they searched at night, and she says they didn't. And she says, why? What difference does it make? And he just says things are different at night, which obviously does tie into the themes of this episode.
Yeah.
I don't know why the doctor would ask that, though. Do you know what I mean? Without knowing anything yet.
I guess.
It just seems a bit kind of convenient.
I guess.
For a story beat. But
I know, I did think the same thing at the time. I was...
Yeah.
But maybe he got a vibe.
A vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Belinda asks how often she comes here, and she says all the time. She comes here all the time, basically praying that his son is just going to show up.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, it is sad. I like this woman a lot.
I do.
Yeah.
Oh.
What?
I like this woman a lot, and there's once in this scene, the doctor's trying to reassure her. He says, I'm gonna, because she says about the hope that the police box brings.
Yeah,
she?
She says, I thought the police had given up hope until someone delivered that thing tonight. And she looks out the window and obviously sees the TARDIS outside.
Yeah.
And the doctor says, does that give you hope? And she says, it does, sir.
Oh, again, something I love that, and I guess it's also showing Belinda that people feel that way.
Yeah.
The scene where obviously the doctor promises her he's going to do his best to try and find...
Yeah, this is when he basically introduces himself as the doctor, and he says, I'm going to do everything I can to find your boy.
Yeah. And I thought it was very sweet. However, I was very worried. He holds her hand and kind of like rubs her hand a little bit, but they focus on that a lot.
Right.
And I was like, oh, please, God, please... Please don't be something, because I didn't know whether
that's Russell faking you out.
I know, and because I was like, oh, please don't be something.
Because I thought in that cold open, I thought they lingered on that spoon for a bit too long.
But yeah, I was told, oh God, please don't be something. Like, she said that she's happy to talk to them. A lot of people back in those days were like, they wouldn't be happy for them to touch them.
Yes.
I mean, you look at, when was it? Rosa.
Yes, when that lady drops her scarf or something.
Handkerchief, I think it was, wasn't it? And Ryan like just goes to give it to her, and he's like, don't touch it, don't.
Yeah. He gets berated.
I was like, oh, please don't be a thing. I was just worried this whole episode about the Doctor and Belinda. I was like, oh God, please take care of them.
That's why it's so good, because that's not at all the focus of this episode.
It's not, but it's
not
just
related to the main plot,
yeah.
but it's obviously just something that comes up with the setting.
Yeah.
But it just adds another element of something to worry about.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So yeah, it's good. Yeah, I like this moment where they, he kind of comforts her. He asks, the fact that he asks her, does that give you hope? And she says, it does, sir. She calls him sir, for one, which, sweet lady.
She's so lovely.
Secondly, the fact that, that it's that affirmation, I guess, for the Doctor, that it does, him and his special blue box does bring people comfort and hope and joy and all the things that he hopes to basically spread. It's not all in vain. It does do that for people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's nice. And yeah, I love that moment of them just kind of like holding hands. I also got a better look at his fingernails. He's
got A on his thumb, hasn't he? Is it a shape?
I don't think they're English letters. I think they're kind of like symbols or something.
Yeah.
Maybe Gallifreyan. Not too sure.
I'd love to find out. I wonder if they'll ever play a part in something.
I very much doubt it.
Let's be fair, it's Russell. He very much could.
He
very much could. It could be like the code.
If I'm a betting
something.
man, I'm going to say it's not going to come up.
You never know.
Yeah, so they step outside the diner, and at this point they can hear like movies playing in the theatre. And the barman's outside now. And he says, oh, it gives you chills, doesn't it? And he says that the projectionist, Mr. Pye, is still in there. Apparently he got arrested when all the people disappeared, but he was then released for lack of evidence. So he stayed on as the caretaker, and now he plays the movies to an empty house. Ooh. Yeah, Belinda's like, what, you saying it's haunted? And he's like, no, of course not. And then the doctor looks at Belinda, he's doing that face again.
He's like, oh.
He's like scrunching his face up, and she's like, what? And he's like, there's literally an old caretaker in a haunted cinema. And she kind of pulls him towards, she goes, come on, Velma. And he goes, okay, Fred.
Again, I know we haven't had long with them, but I love...
They're already a much more compelling duo, I think, than he and Ruby were.
I agree. I think because they seem more like... I know this sounds bad, but seem more equal. Ruby seemed to look up to the doctor a lot, and she was like aspiring to be him, and like, oh, I could never be like him. Whereas Belinda's just kind of like, you're great and all, but
yeah.
Do you mean?
But it's funny because like Amy probably idolized him as well, because obviously met him when she was like 7.
Yeah.
You know, she was the girl who waited, and he was the raggedy doctor, the imaginary friend.
Yeah.
But again, she was not afraid to put him in his place. She didn't necessarily always look up to him in that way, and she would stand up to him when needed. Where Ruby never really had the chance to do that.
No, and she it always seemed like, you know,
it was always them two just kind of goofing off.
Yeah,
and then especially the fact that like 2 episodes in that series, we don't really see much of them in it.
Yeah.
I just don't think we had that much time to connect with them.
Yeah, and
like, even other companions like Bill or Martha, who only had 1 series, they were longer series.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Martha's series was 13 episodes. I know she rocked up a bit in series 4 as well. Bill had 12 episodes, I think, in series 10. But obviously, Ruby, not including the Christmas special, had 8.
Yeah.
And 2 of those were kind of Doctor Light.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like there feels more of an age gap between Doctor and Ruby than it does than Doctor and Belinda. It feels
There's something weirdly youthful about Ruby, isn't there? She, like you said, I know compared to the Doctor, we're all kind of children, but Ruby seemed very much like a kid looking up to a guardian. Yeah. Where, I know what you mean. There's something more on equal terms here. It reminds me more of like Ten and Donna's relationship.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. Something else I did like, just as a bit of a kind of like cut back to earlier, is that Belinda does still want to go home. Yeah. Like, obviously she's kind of humouring the Doctor here, but she wasn't just totally okay with just like... It would have been a bit jarring, I think, if last episode she was like, you need to get me home, I'm not one of your adventures, and then here she's just like, okay, one of your adventures. So I like that she did kind of put her foot down a bit and say, no, you need to get me home.
I like that, even the fact that she was excited to go out of the TARDIS, and she was like, oh, you know, I'm going to get changed, I'm going to go outside.
Yeah.
And then she instantly sees, obviously...
The Rock Hudson.
The Rock Hudson thing, and then being like, I shouldn't be here. This isn't right.
Yeah. I think she didn't realise how excited she'd be until the moment, but then soon as she stood outside and it became real, it kind of brought it back to reality a little bit. Yeah. But at this point, they go round to the back of the theatre, and the Doctor uses his weird-looking sonic to open a fire exit at the back, and they slip inside, and they are now standing inside one of the theatre rooms. There's like a Western playing on the screen.
I love this theatre.
It's cool, isn't it?
It's so cool. I love it so much.
I just love the cinema.
I do, but like... There's
something retro about this, isn't it?
I mean, it literally is, yeah. It's got the old little, you know, they're kind of squeaky. They're kind of like a thick velvet to them, the seats.
Yeah. Nowhere near as many seats in the theatre as you would have in like a modern cinema.
No.
Yeah, obviously the fact that the films are played on a projector on film and not like... not streams, but obviously in modern cinemas it tends to be digital. Yeah. And it's just projected onto a screen, where this is obviously like actually kind of lighting the film and projecting it. Yeah, cool. I love it. Yeah, so there's like a Western playing on the screen at this point, and they kind of start walking up the stairs, and the Doctor calls out to Mr. Pye in the projection room. And this is when we cut to him in the projection room, and he's kind of whispering. He's like, go away. And he's kind of like pointing to the side, trying to like get them to leave.
Yeah.
And at this point, the projector just shuts itself off. Belinda kind of takes charge now, which I thought was interesting. But she steps in front of the doctor and she says, "My name's Belinda. This is the doctor." And then she looks at the doctor. She goes, "Really? Just the doctor?"
And he's like,
"Yeah, pretty much." She goes, "Ridiculous." And at this point, they're starting to hear tapping. And it seems like just a couple taps at first.
This is so cool. I like how they hear the tapping and you turn and you see the curtain kind of move a little bit.
Yes.
I love this.
Because the tapping sounds like it's coming from behind the curtain.
Yeah.
And then it kind of sounds like it's coming from the side, so they're constantly like whipping around, like, where's that coming from? And then they realise it's not just tapping, it's kind of tap dancing.
Yeah.
And
it's almost like someone's tap dancing.
I think it's Belinda that says it. I think Belinda says, "Yeah, is that tap dancing?" And then a spotlight comes on the stage, and the curtains open, and it's Mr. Ring-a-Ding.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Yeah. And he pops out and he starts singing his song. I'm Mr. Ring-a-Ding. It's been stuck in my head all day.
I love Mr. Ring-a-Ding.
He's great. The animation is gorgeous.
Oh,
it's so good.
It's so good.
I know you made this comparison before, but it is very Cuphead, isn't it? It's very
in
that kind of like 30s, 40s style where characters, even when they're standing still and not doing anything, they're kind of like
bobbing,
swinging their shoulders and arms back and forth as if they're dancing, even when they're not.
Yeah.
It's just this kind of like old-timey.
Well, it was to show movement still, isn't it? So that you know that they're
alive,
animated, and they're not just staying still.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
He looks great. And the effect of him being obviously a 2D cartoon in a 3D space looks good as well.
Yeah.
So the doctor looks amazed.
Yeah.
He's like ear to ear smiling.
Yeah.
And he introduces himself. Obviously, it's the doctor, and he asks... at this point, Mr. Ring-a-Ding stops singing. And he says, "Who are you?" And then he starts singing again. He goes, "I'm Mr. Ring-a-Ding."
And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, the doctor goes, whoa, cut. And then he like looks up at Belinda and goes, "Who am I saying cut to?" Which is another... this episode's just going to get more meta, so it's not even worth getting into that. Belinda thinks he's a hologram. And she's like, this technology's like way beyond Earth for this time. And the doctor says, "He's not a hologram." And she's like, "Well, yeah, he is." And he says, "No, he's a living cartoon, but he's not celluloid. He's made of light." Now, if he's made of light, is he a hologram? I would argue yes. I would argue he is a hologram if he's made of light.
Yes, he probably is.
The doctor says, "How do you exist?" And at this point, he kind of tears up and he goes, "I wish I knew. I'm all alone." And you hear this like violins in the background. And Belinda goes, "He comes with a soundtrack."
Oh, I love this so much. And I love Mr. Ring-a-Ding.
Yeah, because he starts crying. He's like, "I'm all alone. There's no one like me." And then he picks up his tear and like throws it on the floor.
Yeah, he's got like a big eye. He's like, "Woo."
Yeah. The doctor says that people have gone missing, and he says, "Do you know anything about this?" And Mr. Ring-a-Ding says, "When he appeared, they disappeared." He says, "Figure out the mystery, they might come back." And at this point, Belinda says, "What are you supposed to be a cartoon of?" And he goes, "Don't make me laugh." And she goes, "Are you supposed to be a man?" And he goes, "Don't make me laugh." And he's like, "You've got a pig nose." And he keeps saying it, "Don't make me laugh." She goes, "He's blue." He just keeps going, "Don't make me laugh." And the doctor says, "Is there a reason we shouldn't be making you laugh?" And he looks kind of, I don't know, nervous at this point. And then he kind of has this like realization on his face, and he starts backing off. He tells Belinda to get back, and they're kind of backing up the stairs. And he asks who he is. And this is when Mr. Ring-a-Ding says, "Don't make me laugh because it sounds like this." And then he does the ha 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 ha, like the...
I know when he did that, I went...
Yeah, I did. I remember because you were sat down like kind of leaning forward.
Yeah.
And I was leaning back on the headboard. We were watching this in bed.
Yeah.
And I was leaning back on the headboard, and I kind of kind of leaned forward, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's..." He did the thing.
It's just me pointing.
And at this point, letters fall off the front of the cinema. So the Rock Hudson in Harvest Bringer, whatever it was, the letters fall off and it says Harbinger on the front. He's got me 3 times with this now. Russell's bamboozled me 3 times.
He's going to do it more.
I know he is, but you'd think I'd start seeing it coming.
Well, this is the funny
thing. This is episode 2. Last time was episode 2 as well. You think I'd notice?
This is the funny thing, because before this, I even said to Connor, why is it called LUX? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you think it'd be like Mr. Ring-a-Ding, obviously knowing nothing about this.
Yes.
And Connor said, I don't know, maybe it was like what they called cinema, maybe. Yeah. And I was like, oh, maybe. And then he was like, oh, I'm LUX. And I was like, that's why.
Yeah, so he identifies himself. The doctor says gods of chaos have harbingers, and Mr. Ring-a-Ding says that he is LUX Imperator, the god of light. Apparently LUX is Latin for light. Yeah. So there you go. That's why. I wish I knew Latin, because then I probably could have come up with a theory. But yeah. But yeah, obviously his laugh, his ha 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 ha, first appeared in The Giggle. Yeah. And then happened again in
Devil's Chord.
Devil's Chord with Maestro. I don't think the laugh came into play, but obviously after that we had Sutek as well. Yeah. So this whole era seems to be a big thing on the Pantheon of the Gods. Yeah. I thought it was just going to be a season 1 thing.
I know, even I was like, oh, this is going to continue.
Yeah, this is going to keep going.
I wonder if we're going to get them all.
Yeah.
Collecting them.
Collecting them.
The little bingo card, little stamp card of all the Pantheon gods.
I can't wait for Grave Lord Nito. Yeah. So Belinda and the Doctor start running away, and Mr. Ring-a-Ding, or LUX, goes to chase them. But at this point, Mr. Pie turns the film back on, and
I love
he starts going, "Oh, God damn it, I'm Mr. Ring-a-Ding." He starts dancing.
He's like, "I've got to sing to it."
Yeah, and yeah, so yeah, the doctor says, "Oh, he's got to sing along." So they go upstairs back into the projection room, and they find Mr. Pie, and he asks him how long the song lasts. He says 1 minute 36 seconds. So the doctor asks him, "Why do you play the movies in the dark?" And he says, well, it feeds him. And Belinda says, he's 2 foot tall. Why don't you just run away? And this is when we get his kind of backstory. And he says, basically, that he shows him his wife. Yeah. So, what's it? His name's Reginald Pye, I think. He says that him and his wife were married for 20 years. One day she crossed the road anyway. So... yeah, that's all we need.
Well, yeah, he said she crossed the road, and that was the last time I saw her.
Yeah.
Oh, and the way he describes her as well.
Yeah, he says, like, you never saw such a girl.
Oh.
Yeah, and he says, the only way I can see her is by watching old films of her, but clearly LUX has allowed him to... he's kind of brought her into reality a little bit. So, and we get the sequence where we see them, like, dancing, having a slow dance on the stage.
And I love how he's... you could tell that he knows it's not right, but he says, like, don't you tell me that she's not real, because... yeah,
he says, if that thing out there is real, then so is she.
Yeah. It's like, oh, bless him.
Yeah. At this point, we realise that the song has stopped. Well, the doctor says, the song has stopped. And Belinda looks out the window and she goes, don't worry, it's not much of a chase. And we see him, like, crawling himself up the stairs.
And he's like...
he's, like, sweating. And, yeah, he says, I was so big when I arrived, I should never have learnt perspective. It's little bits like that. I'm like, yes, Russell. I love these little lines that are like, so, like, as a kid, that would not have meant anything to me. But yeah, that's fun. I like that. So the doctor goes on about how dangerous the Pantheon of Gods are. He basically says, you know, I fought loads of them, but to them, this is all just a game, but the games are deadly, and our entire reality is in danger. And Belinda finds a couple reels of film on the side, and she notices that the reels of film have the missing people in the cells. Yeah. The doctor obviously says the police searched the building, but they never looked here. And Belinda says, what, he took a picture of them? And no, the doctor says, no, he's a god of light. He's turned them into an image. He's captured them in a moment. Which is basically what a photograph is. Yeah. So, yeah, it's cool.
And I like how she's looking at this film and then all of a sudden they start to move a little bit.
Yeah, it kind of, the camera zooms into the cell and we sort of, like, capture that brief like second where they obviously were captured.
Yeah.
And they like scream, and yeah, she kind of jumps back and goes, "Oh God!" And at this point, Mr. Ring-a-Ding kind of knocks on the door. It's like, "Hello, I know you're in there." And then obviously being flat, he just slides under the door and just pops back up. I like how he looks at Mr. Pie. He goes, "Mr. Pie, are you giving away my secrets?" And then starts walking towards him. He's like juggling fire in his hands. And Mr. Pie, it's so sad. He's kind of like falling back into the chair. And he's clutching this reel of film to his chest, like with his arms crossed.
Yeah.
And he's like, he basically threatens to burn the film of his wife. And he's like, "No, please don't do that." And the doctor asks how he entered this world. And I like this line as well. He says, "I'm a 2-dimensional character. You can't expect backstory."
Yeah. I also like that.
But he says, the gods are on about to tell him. So this is when he kind of he doesn't just like put the fire out. He drops the flame on the floor and then stomps it out like a cigarette almost. And he says, "Light, the chance of moonlight with reflection and electricity." Sure. It's one of the things that's like, okay, I don't know how that works, but
Sure.
I don't know what you could have said for me to be like, yeah, all right. Do you know what I mean? It works, I guess. Yeah, Lux basically works out that the Doctor is the one who defeated the Toymaker, Maestro, and Sutek. Belinda tells him to let the people go that he's captured in the film. And he says, "But I've immortalized them on film. I can do the same for you." And this is when the Doctor goes, no, wait. And he kind of like turns the cameras on them. And the screen kind of goes really bright. And the Doctor goes, "We're being animated." And then this is when we realize him and Belinda are now 2D cartoons.
Yeah.
Looks good.
It does.
I assume this is where your complaint comes in.
Yes.
You wanted more of this?
I'm so sad.
You wanted more of them in 2D?
I thought we were at least going to get like 10 minutes of them doing something in 2D animation.
Yeah, it lasted about a minute, didn't it?
Not even that.
Yeah.
I'm so sad. I'm like, I can't tell you how gutted I am. I can understand why, because animation is not cheap and it takes a lot of time, and they already had to do that.
You see, with the Disney budget when this series.
Yeah, they already had to do that with Mr. Ring-a-Ding, but
yeah.
Oh God, I was like, especially because they've been talking about Scooby-Doo so much.
Yeah.
I thought, they're gonna have to solve a mystery.
Yeah.
In animation. I was like, this is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
This is like the main thing I was talking to Connor about, because I'd seen the little clip of them turning into animation.
Yeah, so I think that was in... If it wasn't in like the season 2 trailer, it might have been like a quick video that was put on Instagram or something like that.
Yeah, I'd seen it and I was like, I'm so ready for this. This was like the moment I was looking forward to for the series so much. I was like, oh my God, we're actually going to get animation.
Yeah. You do like animation, don't you?
I love animation.
Yeah, no, I agree. I understand why they didn't linger on it too much, because this episode is juggling a lot, like we've said.
I'd rather it would have dropped some things, though, and just...
Yeah, I agree. We'll talk about it more later, but there's a certain sequence that comes soon where I feel like maybe drop that and spend more time on this.
I think I know the exact one.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh God, like... Because I feel like it didn't...
It very much felt like it was in the episode to be something to put in the trailer.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel... Especially because them resolving it was so quick.
Yes.
I was like, well, what was the point of that?
Yeah. It seemed more gimmicky than actually, like...
Especially because it was very... Like, the resolution to them going from 2D to 3D to
yes,
human or live action or whatever was... I rolled my eyes really hard at that.
Yeah, let's walk through this sequence.
Let's walk through it.
Yeah, they're cartoons now. They're 2D, very much kind of like the old kind of...
It's very Scooby-Doo.
Like the original Scooby-Doo series.
Yeah.
And... yeah, the Doctor goes, "We're being animated." And yeah, Belinda goes, "I'm all flat and this waistline is impossible." And they're talking very animated as well. They have these really kind of like exaggerated mannerisms and stuff. And this is when she says, "Oh, Doctor, your life is terrifying. I don't think you'll ever get me home." And then all of a sudden she kind of pops into more detail. She's kind of like 2.5D.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, she's not flat anymore. She's got
she's obviously still a cartoon. She is still flat, but she doesn't look like she's got outlines anymore. She looks like a not 3D as
she's
in
shaded.
Like, yeah, she's just got more detail. And the doctor basically works out what's going on. He says, You've added depth, which has made you more 3D. So he kind of works out what he needs to do. So this is when he says, when we were talking earlier in the TARDIS, and I said we weren't going to go to Gallifrey for whatever reason. He says, I can't go because it's in ruin. My people are dead. I'm the last of the Time Lords. And then he kind of pops into like the same detail as her.
Yeah.
And she says, if there are no Time Lords, then I can't get home. And then she pops into like even more detail. And the doctor says he's scared. The fact that it keeps bouncing off of May 24th, 2025, he's concerned that something has happened in 2025.
Yeah.
And she says she's scared too. And then at this point, they both kind of turn into live action.
Yeah.
So they are now Varda Sethu and Ncuti Gatwa again.
Yeah.
But they're still kind of standing in front of the cartoon background. And
I mean, this does look cool.
It does look cool. It also looks a little weird. Like, it's obvious they're standing on a green screen, but again, it's like, what are you going to do in it?
Yeah.
Belinda asks how they can get out. And the doctor says, well, if we've been framed, we have to break the frames.
Yeah.
So he reaches up to the top. And you know what? In this sequence, I thought he was, because obviously the episode is letterboxed. How you got the black bars on the top and the bottom. I thought he was going to pull the letterbox down.
I thought that as well.
I thought he was going to pull the letterbox down, do something like that. But no, he kind of reaches up and out of the frame and then like swings his arms down and he kind of flicks over to the next frame.
Yeah.
So it's as if you imagine like a film reel obviously moving.
Well, the next, cell, I guess.
Yeah, cell. And then him and Belinda are doing it together. They're both reaching up and they're swinging their arms down and they're kind of cycling through the cells. And then it goes faster and faster and faster and faster. And then all of a sudden they appear back in the theatre. Belinda's happy. She's like, woo, we're back in the theatre.
Well, this is the interesting thing because I got whipped emotionally with this. Because initially I thought, they're not in this. They're not there.
Yeah, that was too easy.
They're not there. And then they came running down and I saw the woman with the police officer.
Yes.
And I was like, oh no, please no.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and then my brain thought, was it the hand touch? Was it that? Is she going to mention it?
He touched me.
He touched me. Right. I was like, oh my God, please don't do this to me. And then she was like, he knows about my boy. And I was like, oh.
Yeah, so
maybe not,
a police officer arrives with Mrs. Lowenstein and she says like, oh, I knew there was something suspicious about him. Yeah. He's asking all these questions. He knows something about my boy.
Yeah.
And the policeman points a gun at them. And Belinda's like, what are you doing? We haven't done anything wrong. And this is when he says, you're in a space reserved for white folk.
Yeah.
And he asks what they know about the disappearance. And the doctor slowly puts his hands up here, but he goes, oh man, your continuity is terrible.
Yeah.
He says, we're in Miami-Dade County, but the officer's uniform is for the NYPD. And he goes, try harder. And he pulls the frame down again.
Yeah.
And now they're just kind of standing in like a white void. And Belinda says, again, this line I just found funny. She says, we're still in a bloody film. I hate when they do that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking like, oh man, Last Christmas. Yeah. It's just like that all over again, isn't it? Yeah. And the doctor, he tries it a couple more times and he says, scrolling up and down doesn't work. We have to go out. And at this point, the two of them kind of crouch down and they start coming closer to the camera. And they're slowly inching closer and closer and closer. And then they put their hands like on the screen. So it's like they're touching us almost.
Yeah.
And then they accidentally push the glass out of the TV.
Yeah. And
the color grading just like changes and you see them go, oh, and you hear glass smash. And then they step through. And this is quite cool because this was done in like a oneer as well. This is like a one take. So they push the glass out, it smashes, and they step through the hole. And now they've entered a living room. And there are 3 people on the sofa. Right. Yeah. I still have no idea how I feel about this.
I sat there and I watched this and I was like, what is this? What is happening?
Yeah, right. So they enter a room. Let's say there's 3 people on the sofa. We meet them. So there's Hassan. This is a man who's got the Fourth Doctor's scarf wrapped around his neck, and he's wearing a hoodie with the unit logo on it.
Yeah.
Next to him is Lizzie. This is a girl with a fez.
Yeah.
And she's also got a shirt with Telos written on it and a Cyberman's head.
Yeah.
And Robin, who's...
got the Meep shirt.
Yeah, she's in a wheelchair off to the side and she's wearing a Meep shirt and she's holding the Third Doctor sonic screwdriver.
Yeah.
I also noticed I paused and just had a look around the room to see what else I could find. They're sat on Weeping Angel cushions.
Of course they are.
There's a poster in the background for Fine Time.
Yeah.
And there's kind of one of the man trap, the big slug things are on there. There's kind of like a tin. You've probably seen them around. You know, like the TARDIS, like cookie jars.
Yeah, I know the exact one.
One of those on the shelf. Hassan's drinking from a mug with K9 on it.
I saw that, yeah. I was like, oh, look.
Also, Lizzie's drinking from a mug that says like Lizzie, don't blink or something like that. I noticed there's a whole bunch of Doctor Who DVDs behind them. I noticed the original like Russell T Davies era run up to like the Moffat era. I've noticed the classic Who DVDs down there with like the grey spines, and I noticed, you know, the new Doctor Who the collection Blu-ray things, like the remastered sets of the classic series, all of those on the shelves.
Which, to be fair, they must earn some bank because they are not cheap.
Doctor Who fans for you. They're not making bank, they just don't buy anything else.
Even then, though,
Rob's probably got all of them.
They're brilliant. I love them. The artwork on those Blu-rays, but my God, they're ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
The Capaldi one.
Oh, no. You're thinking of the Steelbooks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking of the Capaldi Steelbook. I want so much.
Yeah. No, not the Steelbooks. These are the collections, are the ones where they take all the classic series and they kind of rescan the film and remaster them to be as high quality as they can, and they put a lot of like special features and stuff on them.
Oh yeah, that's not the ones
you'll know. I'll show you later, but you'll know them when you see them.
I know the ones.
You've probably seen them around. Yeah, but I also noticed in front of the DVDs and the Blu-rays and stuff, I saw an action figure of the Ood.
Yeah.
I saw a Martha figure and a Slitheen.
Oh.
Yeah, these three people, they know who they are.
Yeah.
They know who Belinda and the Doctor are.
Yeah.
They're still surprised to see them though, and they all kind of give them a big hug.
Yeah.
Yeah, they basically say that he's fictional. He's a fictional man, and they watch him every week on TV.
I love how they're like, "Oh, hello, you," and then we cut to like the Doctor and Belinda sitting down, looking at them, and the Doctor's like, "So I don't exist."
Yeah, so I'm fictional, and you watch me every week on the TV. And Robin says, "I knew this was happening because it was leaked online."
Yeah,
and she says, #RIP Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, when she said that, I like whipped. I almost give myself whiplash looking back at Connor so much, because I know he's been telling me about how people seem to think that this may be the last series for a while.
We don't know, do we?
No. But I was like, do you think that's what they meant? Because Russell mentioned...
There's no way of knowing. This is just too meta. I don't know what's a joke anymore.
I don't know what's real.
Yeah. So, obviously, after finding out that he's a fictional character, the Doctor says, "So what's your favourite episode?" And all three of them go, Blink.
Yeah.
Blink. Oh, yeah, of course. I don't believe they're big Doctor Who fans.
Oof.
I'm sorry, no matter how much merch you buy, if Blink is your favourite Doctor Who episode,
fair.
Get a personality, for God's sake.
Come on, yours is like Midnight.
Midnight's great. Being like, look, some answers are just correct, okay? Some things are popular because they are good, but if your favourite Doctor Who episode is Blink or Heaven Sent, they're both great episodes, but come on, it's like...
I was going to say Heaven Sent. Shut up.
Yeah, it's like, you got those answers like...
Heaven Sent is...
Like though. Midnight or like World Enough and Time, where they're like... They're not unpopular choices. People love those stories. They probably make most people's top 10.
I don't think... and I think unless you are a Who fan, I don't think you're choosing Heaven Sent.
No, but that's what I'm talking about. Who fans?
Yeah. People
who watched it casually, yeah, they probably say Blink's their favourite. That's what I'm going to say, right? Casual viewers' favourite episodes are Blink, and Whovians' favourite episodes is Heaven Sent.
Yeah, I was going to say because
that makes these people fake fans.
No, it makes these people Russell fans. Well,
Russell didn't write that one.
I know he didn't. I know, but yeah, they're fans of the Russell era. There was not one whisper, not one little tiny mention of poor Chibnall's era. There was not one item, not one reference, nothing.
Yeah, one of them could have had like a Pating shirt or something, surely.
Yeah.
Yeah. They all say Blink's their favourite episode, and the Doctor goes, not the one with the goblins? And now, I know he rattles off a couple now, because he says, like, I met the Beatles. The one where I was standing on a landmine, that was brilliant. Like, I like this, but the fact that he started off with the goblins, I did think, is this Russell directly addressing the fact that people didn't like the church on Ruby Road? Is this Russell being like, guys?
I love it. Not the one with the goblins. No.
Russell, that was no one's favourite episode.
Sorry, Russell. Nobody liked that.
Yeah, it's not the one where I was standing on the landmine. That was brilliant. And they all just go, Blink. That's what I mean. These are not true fans, I'm telling you. And that's not me putting down Blink. Blink's fantastic. Blink is a near perfect.
You do like Blink.
Blink is a near perfect script, but
because it was written by Moffat.
No, because it's like a Twilight Zone episode or something like Black Mirror. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like it's a great one-off, but it's not indicative of Doctor Who.
I guess.
Yeah. Belinda says, "What happens in Blink?" And Hassan says, "It's the one where you can't blink." And she goes, "Well, that sounds like an absolute epic." Now, this is the second episode. Russell's getting spicy, right? This is the second episode in a row where he's making fun of Moffat.
Yeah.
Both times about Blink, actually. Because obviously Belinda's making fun of like the very premise of Blink just sounding stupid.
Yeah.
But do you remember last episode when the Doctor said, "Time you eye me"?
Yeah.
And she goes, "What am I, 6?" Yeah. So Russell's having a pop.
Oh, Russell, leave him alone. Saying that though, they're so good friends. You know, Russell wrote that and he was just smirking, knowing that Moffat's gonna watch it and be like, "You little shit."
I love the thought of Stephen Moffat sat at home watching it on release and then just having a little chuckle to himself on
a little
his
chuckle and then just sending him like, "Bitch," to text.
Yeah. Robin says, this whole episode though with Mr. Ringading, the ending's a bit obvious, isn't it? Oh, the film stock's explosive.
Yeah.
And the Doctor says, no, that doesn't work. I can't blow Lux up because he's made of light. And Robin goes, yeah, but what does he not do? And the Doctor goes, I don't know. And Belinda goes, tell us. And they go, ooh, we can't do that. Belinda goes, oh my God, you're so annoying.
They were like, yeah, lots of people say that.
Yeah. This whole thing, right?
Damn, Russell, stop atting the Who fans.
Well, that's what I mean, right?
I know he's one, but still.
There's two ways, there's two ways this can be done. The whole thing of having the Doctor Who fandom in episodes. You got the Love and Monsters approach of having them all appear like crackpot weirdos who look way too deeply into things.
Yeah.
And then you've got this way of doing it, which just paints them out to be annoying, nitpicky losers.
I mean...
neither of which are positive.
And neither of which are that far off.
Yeah. That's the thing Belinda says, oh my... The way she says it's very funny to me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to watch that back because the way she goes, oh my God, you're so annoying. Yeah. She almost like laughs it off. Yeah, and Lizzie says, lots of people say that, but we don't care because we don't actually exist. And then this is where
I thought for a moment,
What?
For a moment then, I thought that doesn't matter because Who fans don't actually exist. I was like, oh no, we do.
I see this as Russell essentially saying like, hey, Who fans, you're simultaneously the best and we can't do this without you and you are the whole reason we do this.
Yeah.
At the same time, you make our lives hell.
At the same time, get off my back.
Yeah. It's very much like you're so nitpicky and you're so like nothing can be done right. Yeah. I mean, everything's like, oh, I saw this leaked online.
Yeah, that stuff makes me laugh. It's like, this is so obvious. And I saw this, and this was leaked online. It's like, yeah, because you've literally eaten and made every possible outcome.
Yeah.
Like, you've thought of everything. Of course it's going to be obvious to you.
Yeah. But then, like you said, at the same time, we can't do any of this without them. So, yeah, I kind of like it for that. But yeah, this is when they say that they don't actually exist. And this is when the scene goes from being this weird, like, meta fourth wall breaking comic relief thing to actually being kind of sad.
Yeah.
And Robin says, we're the kind of characters that don't have surnames.
It's true.
And Lizzie says, we're just part of the trap designed to keep you here. And something I noticed here was I noticed, so again, same as last week, I watched this episode twice. I think Charles only seen it the once. We watched it together last night, and then I watched it again today to make some notes. And last night, I recognized the music in this sequence. I was like, I know this. What is this? I've heard this before, but I couldn't place it. And then watching it again today, I tracked it down, and it's Sad Man with a Box from Series 5.
Oh.
So it's one of Matt Smith's kind of themes
Yeah.
that's playing in this moment. Now, I don't know why. I don't know what the thematic sort of relevance is to that. I don't know if it's just an easy bit of recycled music, or whether, I can't imagine with Russell it is. I imagine there's a reason for it, but I don't know. But we got some Series 5 soundtrack in here.
Yeah, there's got to be a reason. I mean, unless it's just, it's all kind of what's it called? The fact that their favourite episode and the kind of it's very Moffat.
Let's just add some Moffat music in here.
Yeah, because I'm well, as far as I'm aware, we aren't going to be getting any more Moffat. Like,
we haven't had any confirmation to suggest we are.
Oh, so sad.
Yeah, like I say, Lizzie says they're just part of the trap designed to keep him there. The doctor says, no, I'm sure there's something I can do. But she says, no, there's not enough time. We're 30 minutes in. It's time for the third act.
Yeah.
We were 31 minutes in. I checked the the timeline during this bit. Belinda says to them, well, keep watching. And they kind of look a bit awkward. And the doctor says, Belinda, they're not real. Once we go, the three of them will blink out of existence. Blink. Yeah. I noticed that yesterday as well. Lizzie says, they don't die, they just end. And she says, but that's not important. What happens to us doesn't matter. But she says, maybe in future, you can just think of us and then we'll live on just a little bit.
Yeah.
And the music kind of swells at this point. It's still playing Sad Man with a Box and the music swells. Doctor's crying again. And
he is a sad man with a box.
Yeah. Tell me about it. And at this point, Lizzie reaches forward and she pulls down the frame like they did earlier. And now they are, I think they're back in the white,
like the complete white.
Yes, they're back in the white void now.
Yeah.
So the two of them hug. And the doctor says, we need to stop the film. So his theory is that if we can stop the film from moving through the projector, then the heat from the projector will cause the film to heat up and it will burn.
Yeah.
Belinda says, and that will set us free. And he says, either that or we'll burn to death.
I like how chipper he is. We'll burn.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh.
So the two of them stand side by side and they kind of reach up. They're kind of starfishing.
Yeah.
And they're reaching up and they're kind of holding the frame as if it, like the ceiling's pushing down on them, but they're trying to hold it up. That's what it kind of looks like. I don't understand how this works. Like, I don't understand how like them on the frame is actually able to stop the film from moving. But sure, okay. Again, this is just one of those things you kind of have to accept. Like, I assume if they suffered the same fate as the people from the cold open, surely their film isn't even in a projector. Surely they're just kind of just sat on the side. I don't know.
Well, no, their film is in the projector, isn't it?
Why? Oh, because when they were captured on the camera, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, you are right. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, they're holding up and they're stopping they're holding the frame, trying to stop it from moving, which they do, and the film starts to burn, and yeah, it's kind of a cool effect because like Belinda's on the left and the doctor's on the right, and the middle kind of burns and it separates the two. And then it works. They get freed from the thing, but in the process, the doctor also burns his hand.
Yeah.
And they land back in the theatre. For real this time.
Yeah, because Belinda asks, she's like, are we here for real? Like, is this actually happening? And he's like, I've burnt my hand. And then she instantly goes into like, take
into
care.
Nurse mode.
She's like, oh God.
Yeah, she goes, oh, doctors make the worst patients. And then he says, no, it's okay, look. And then he just heals his hand.
Yeah.
He says, by generation left him with a little extra pocket of energy to heal. Now, I know this has happened before. Obviously, we got the moment in the Christmas invasion, but that's justified as the Doctor still being within 12 hours of his regeneration cycle. Okay, fine. We get moments like, is it Let's Kill Hitler, where he's able to just... Oh, it happens in Rise of the Cybermen as well. You know, when he finds that part of the TARDIS and he can just kind of breathe regeneration energy onto it. So he can just kind of at will just use regeneration energy to heal a bit of himself.
Yeah, usually he says like, I think it was in Rise of Cybermen when he was saying like, "Well, that'll take a couple of years off."
Yeah. He says like, "I just gave away 10 years of my life," or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting that he has to specify here that this is because of the bi-generation.
Yeah.
Don't know why. I don't know if that's going to come into play or what.
Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe he's doing that so people don't. Maybe we don't know. Maybe he's going to get into trouble. And people will be like, well, he can just heal.
I can't wait for that thing to catch up. I can't remember which episode it is. One of them, he like uses a bit of energy and he says like, "Oh, I'm gonna." Is it like the cliffhanger in Stolen Earth or whatever? He says something like, "Oh, that's going to cost me an arm and a leg down the way or something." I can't wait for the incarnation of the Doctor who's literally like missing an arm or something, and it's because of that.
That would be great.
Yeah, but let's be honest, the whole reason the sequence happens where the Doctor burns his hand and he heals it is because Lux has now shown up and he's seen the Doctor do this.
Yeah.
So the Doctor tells him to let Belinda and Mr. Pi go. He says, "It's me you want." And Lux says to him that he has light within him that can build a body. He says, "No wonder the other gods fell. They were saving you for me." I'm like, oh, okay.
I don't think that's true, Lux, but okay.
Yeah, Neil Patrick Harris is just weeping in a box somewhere. So at this point, film reels come out of the projector and they fly through the window and they kind of wrap around the Doctor's wrists and they pull him up the stairs, dragging him up, and they hold him against the wall. And
the projector's kind of shining through him, isn't it?
Yeah. So this is when the Doctor says, "What's the one thing I never do? Go outside." So obviously that's what Robin was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
That they said they can't tell them. But he says he's seen the brightest light of them all outside, the glow of the atom. He basically wants to play with nukes.
Yeah.
He wants to play with bombs. So that's kind of scary, I guess. That's like an alien with like cosmic power, but all they want to do is play with things that we've created. That's somehow scary.
I mean, well, the Slovene.
Yeah, true. I guess, yeah. But then again, there's a difference because the Slovene are just an alien race, where Lux is a literal god.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, he starts kind of siphoning regeneration energy out of the Doctor. Like I say, the Doctor's chained up against the wall, or tied up with these film reels, and the regeneration energy is flowing out of his chest and straight into Lux.
And I love Lux becoming 3D.
Yeah, he starts to become 3D. And initially, you know, like when you first draw 3D characters and they look kind of polygonal, like you can see like the mesh on them. That's kind of what he looks like. The Doctor says to Belinda, "Do you remember them?" As in Hassan and Lizzie and Robin.
Yeah.
He says, "They told us the plot." And he says, "Do you trust me?" And she says, "Yes. I'm sorry if I didn't before, but yes, I do trust you."
I like that.
Yeah. And he says, "I'm a Time Lord. So do you know what that means? I know what time it is." And he tells her to run. So she runs out the door and she realizes what he means by that is it's daylight outside. So she starts pulling she goes into the storage room with all the film canisters and she starts kind of throwing them onto the floor.
Yeah.
Lux is, at this point, he's gradually turning more 3D and he's getting kind of more detailed. Belinda runs to get matches from Mr. Pi, who's kind of sat on the floor in his room now leaning against the door. I love this bit.
This is brilliant. This is genuinely brilliant.
Yeah, she says, "I've seen your fingers. That's nicotine. I know you smoke."
Yeah.
She's so good.
That's brilliant. And I love the fact that when his wife kind of like comes to and gives him the matches, you can see his hands they're nicotine hands.
Yeah.
Or smoker's fingers.
Yeah. Good job, Russell.
Brilliant.
Well done. So his wife kind of appears to him in like a vision, I assume.
Well, we don't know. Maybe it's...
I assumed it was him kind of seeing her as a vision. He had the matches anyway, but he envisioned her giving the matches. I very much doubt that was an actual manifestation of her from Lux.
I thought it was like an accidental manifestation.
I just interpreted it as just him projecting it. But it doesn't really matter.
No.
The wife gives him the matches and she says, "Find me." Isn't that also the last thing that Rogue said to the Doctor before he disappeared?
Yeah.
Obviously, during this, Lux is getting more and more detailed now. He's looking kind of gross, actually.
Oh, I love him. I think he looks very cute.
Not at this point.
He does. He's looking really goofy and kind of like...
Oh, he looks horrible.
I like how he looks, though. Like...
I like how he looks when he first turns 3D, but like, no, at this point, he's ugly.
His like teeth are like really...
like rotten and...
They're not rotten. They're like tea stained. Do you know what I mean? And they're... like, they're really...
Get 3D. That man some Colgate. Yeah.
And he just looks so beady-eyed, and I think he looks... I'm like, oh, look at him.
Yeah. So Belinda's knocking on the door, obviously trying to get the matches.
Yeah.
Mr. Pye opens the door, and he tells Belinda to run. And she's like, no, give me the matches. And he just shouts and goes, run! So she turns around and runs. And then he goes into the room with all the film stock on the floor, and he lights it up. And just as Belinda gets back to the theatre room where the doctor's kind of being pinned against the wall, he's also looking very faint at this point. The doctor looks like he's on death's door.
Yeah.
At this point, the film stock explodes, smashing like half the wall apart, and knocks the doctor down to the floor. And also, it's obviously taken out the other side of the wall, so now there's a whole bunch of sunlight streaming into the theatre, right onto Lux. And he loves it.
Yeah.
He's looking at the sunlight, he goes, oh...
Oh, this is so cute.
And Belinda says, like, oh no, he feeds on it. And the doctor says the sun has 2 billion times more energy than the biggest nuclear bomb on Earth. And he looks at Lux and he says, it's all yours. And then him and Belinda kind of like run off. At this point, Lux turns 2D again.
Yeah.
But he starts to grow. He starts getting bigger, like taller and taller and taller and taller. And he just keeps growing. And Belinda says, oh my God, he's never going to stop. And the doctor says, yeah, that's the point. This bit's really, really sweet, actually.
It's so sweet. He looks Lux, so happy.
Yeah, he reaches out towards the sun.
He's like,
He says, the light of creation. And he gets bigger and bigger until he actually just floats off of Earth and out into space. And he says, I am everything and I am nothing. Goodbye. And then he just kind of, he floats off into like a star system in a galaxy, and he just fades away.
Aww.
And Belinda says, but wasn't he made of light? And the doctor says, we're 60% water and we can still drown.
It's true.
It's true.
It's true.
I feel like that phrasing has been used for something before. I can't remember what.
I know exactly, because I thought the same thing, and I was trying to wrap my brain around it, but I don't know what it is.
I'm having trouble placing it, but yeah, that's definitely been used before. Can't remember.
Was it in Doctor Who? I
feel like it was Doctor Who.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head. So the doctor says they gave him all the light in the universe and he became light without end. So she says he's actually a god now, infinite, invisible, intangible. And the doctor just kind of like smiles at her. So at this point, all the missing people have reappeared.
Well, just before that, the guy who's like behind the bar.
The barman from the diner.
The poor man has been in that bar all night. And he comes out and he's like,
he goes, was that Mr. Ring-a-Ding?
Yeah. Yeah, because Mr. Ring-a-Ding just breaks through
through the ceiling.
Yeah, and he's just like, ah.
I say this guy's overacting so much. This is the bit where I really know how much he's overacting. When all the people come back, and they start coming out of the theatre, and he goes, "It's them! Oh my God, it's them! All 15! We missed you so much!" I'm like, chill out, dude.
Oh no, I'm all in for him. You don't know.
This guy's nuts. This guy's unstable. But yeah, they all embrace. Obviously, all the nearby people they all start hugging each other.
Yeah.
The lady from the diner comes out and obviously sees Tommy.
Yeah.
Her missing boy, and they hug. Belinda says to the doctor, I like this. She says, the things we said in there when we were scared, they're still true. And the doctor says, let's go out and face them together. And they kind of head off back towards the TARDIS. While Tommy and his mother are obviously having a hug, he's like, where am I? What happened? And again, the bartender shows up. He goes, Tommy, you've been gone for 3 months. 3 whole months. And at this point, Mrs. Flood shows up.
Yeah, she's like, oh, you think that's a show? You should watch this.
If you want a good show, I recommend this one. And then she points at the TARDIS as it disappears. And she goes, I must warn you, though, limited run only. Show ends May the 24th.
Yeah.
And
what does that mean?
The TARDIS disappears. And Tommy goes, how did they do that? And Mrs. Flood looks at the camera and goes, trick of the light. And then we cut to the credits. That's the end of the episode until like 10 seconds into the credits, we cut back to the three on the sofa. And Lizzie says, that's a 7 out of 10 for me because they gave away the ending in the middle. Yeah. And Hassan goes, yeah, and it doesn't even make sense. It's puppets that want to be boys, not cartoons. And then they all just kind of look at each other and realize, oh,
we're alive.
And then they kind of like cheer, and then it cuts back to the credits again. And that's it. That's Lux. What an episode.
What a roller coaster.
There's so much going on.
I wish at the end they mentioned, is that Miss Flood?
Yeah.
I wish they had said that.
Yeah, point to that.
What's Miss Flood doing there?
Oh, that Mrs. Flood.
Look at Miss Flood in the 50s, wasn't cheeky?
Yeah. Right. Lux, thoughts? I still have no idea. What I will say is I feel like having watched it a second time and having had time to talk about it in a slower way and process it bit by bit, I think I like it more. I think I lean more towards liking it than disliking it. I've heard a lot of discourse about this. I've tried not to look into it too much because I haven't want other people's thoughts to kind of sway mine.
Yeah.
But from what I've seen online, people have really liked this.
Oh, I'm
people have said
surprised.
that this is one of, if not the best episode of Russell's new era.
Oh.
How do you feel about that?
Differently.
Yeah, I
don't agree, but I'm glad people like this.
Yeah, I like I said, I maybe don't hold this in as high esteem as the rest of the community seems to.
Yeah.
But I am glad that people are showing such support for something so different.
I agree.
I think it's good because writers, especially with Doctor Who, often get punished for essentially trying new things because people say they want new things all the time and they complain when things get repetitive and stale. Yet as soon as someone tries something different, people complain.
Yeah, they're like, oh, this isn't the Doctor Who I know.
Yeah.
It's like, well, yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah, pretty much. So
the whole Doctor Who that you know isn't Doctor Who originally, so things change.
So I'm glad that people are taking this on board so well. I'm glad that people have taken the critique of the community well on the chin and people haven't gotten weirdly defensive about it because that's something that happened with Love and Monsters. People got quite upset about that. So yeah, like I say, I haven't looked into it in detail because I haven't really wanted people to kind of sway my opinion, but I know people have liked this a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, free, having talked about everything and able to go into spoilers, thoughts? I agree with you about the animation sequence. I think it looked great. I just wish we got more of that and maybe less of the meta stuff.
Yeah.
The meta stuff, I was very unsure at first. Like, when we were watching it live the first time, I was very much like, oh, I don't know how I feel about this. I didn't necessarily dislike it, but I was really trying to wrap my head around if I liked it or not. I've come around to it, and I'm like, you know what, I'm okay with it. But I feel like I would happily lose that if we got more of the animated stuff. I think the meta stuff could be its own episode.
Well, so I know we discussed the last episode about how Miss Flood has been very meta and she breaks the fourth wall a lot. And I was hoping that that would kind of be her thing. The fact that we've had more of this in this episode, I feel like in the next couple of episodes, this season, we're going to get something that's very fourth wall breaking.
I tell you what, right, with that in mind,
something's going to happen.
Rob sent me a text the other day.
Yes.
And let me find it. He said, new theory about Mrs. Flood.
Yeah.
The terror the Doctor faces is cancellation, and she's trying to get Doctor Who cancelled to kill the Doctor.
Well.
Now,
I read that.
I read that and I thought, you are nuts. I don't know what you've been smoking, but now after this, maybe.
He's fucking right.
Maybe, honestly, it's on the table now, isn't it?
Everything's on the table and everything's off the table.
Yeah.
The table's on, is and isn't.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me, the issue I have is I don't like cringe.
Yes.
And for me...
Did the sequence lean too far into cringe for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
For me. And I think I was already bitter
about the animation
thing.
Yeah.
Maybe if I wasn't looking forward to this episode so much, like literally, like I've been saying to Connor this whole time, oh, we're going to get animation.
The thing is, do you look at this more negatively then, not because of the quality of the episode, but because it's just not what you were expecting it to be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not what I hoped it to be, and that doesn't mean it's bad. But it just means it's not what
it's going to have a sour taste, isn't it?
It's not what I was wanting. Yeah. Like, if we had a little bit more...
No, I agree. I feel like we maybe should have had more of that animation sequence. Like you said, maybe like... Obviously, animation is expensive, like you said. So maybe 5 minutes, maybe, of them in 2D before coming to the same conclusion. Depth, gives you more dimensions and they pop out. But just... having them realise that within like 20 seconds of being animated seemed quite quick. So I'd like maybe if they had to do a little bit as an animation and then work that out over the span of like 5 minutes. And then maybe this whole meta stuff, I'm not even necessarily saying get rid of it, but maybe have that be a focus of a different episode. Have Doctor Who Goes Meta be a different episode.
Yeah, I agree. I think I feel like, and again, I know people probably won't agree, but I feel like it was trying to juggle a little bit too much.
Yeah.
And therefore, things weren't as strong as they could have potentially have been. I think I would have preferred it if we'd had slightly less in this, and that we were able to focus a bit more and spend a bit more time on things.
Because it's like the whole meta thing does work in the context of this. It doesn't feel out of place to me. It works in the context of this story, but it's just... trying to establish Lux as another god of the pantheon, how he takes the form of Mr. Ring-a-Ding, how the Doctor and Belinda handle the whole segregation thing from the 50s, Mr. Pye and his wife, then...
It just felt like a lot.
The whole thing of the concept of film being immortalised on film, and then animation and the role that plays, and then the meta stuff on top. It's just a lot going on. Yeah. And I don't think any of it is bad. It's just, maybe this episode, either make this episode a two-parter maybe, or maybe take some of the ideas, like I said, like the meta thing, and maybe just put that in a different story.
I agree. I would have preferred the meta thing to be somewhere else. Again...
Thing is, it's like, I think the meta thing is better off being in an episode like this than it would be in the finale. Because can you imagine watching a series of the show... like a whole series of Doctor Who, and then in the finale they do like that whole thing where like the Doctor's not real and there's fandom watching, and that's like the resolution to the finale or something, and they have to like the Doctor has to collaborate with the fans to like save the day. Like that would be too far. Do you know what I mean? What if the Doctor didn't have to collaborate with the fans, but had to collaborate with Russell T Davies, and we had a Russell T Davies cameo where he has to write a different ending for the Doctor. Don't give him ideas. He will do it. What if that is the plan? What if Mrs. Flood is trying to do that, and that's the only way he can be saved? Doctor Who gets really meta, and the villain of the week is Chris Chibnall. What if the Doctor like dresses down Russell T Davies and is like, "Why are you doing this to me? Why have you done this?" And he's like, "I'm sorry, it's just a great story." Russell would do that because he would write an excuse for Shooty to have to kiss him. Yeah. But I mean, who knows? We might get that. But I don't know. Yeah. I agree. I wish we'd had... Because the other thing I was looking forward to this thing was also because it was a historic, not like a massive one, but it was set in the 50s. Yeah. So I was hoping we were going to have a bit more of that, but because we went to... Yeah, and because you went into like the animation lands, like, and then you only really you spend it in the cinema and the diner, and that's about it. Yeah, and the street and the people's home. Yeah, but that's obviously not in the 50s. No, but that's my point. I'm about from the 50s setting. Yeah, but I would have liked the fact that I don't know. It would have been cool if they'd. I know with the animation, maybe if they'd been able to change it. Yeah, I like the idea of when they were animated, when they were in that initial 2D animation, maybe they had to go on like a weird 50s kind of like noir investigation.
Yeah, or like
thing.
a Scooby-Doo kind of like
Inspector Gadget, or like one of those kind of old.
Yeah, and like, you know, they had to pull off I don't know, a mask, and Mr. Ring-a-Ding was like behind it, and it was like it was you the whole time.
I tell you what I did. Like, I don't know if you noticed it or not, because it was. I didn't notice it the first time, but I did the second time. It was very quick, which is when they first land in like the 2D animation thing. I was too busy looking at them. I didn't realize Mr. Ring-a-Ding drive past in the car.
I didn't realize that either.
No, I'll show you later. But when they land there, and they're like, he's like, we're animated, and she's like, oh, I'm so flat or whatever, and the car drives past literally in front of them, and Mr. Ring-a-Ding kind of like just looks at the camera and like smiles. I'd missed that the first time.
Yeah, I wish we'd had. I
also kind of wish. Maybe this is me asking for too much, because again, animation's expensive. I wish we got more of Mr. Ring-a-Ding while they were trapped in the film.
Yeah.
Whether it was when they were animated, whether it was during the whole meta sequence, I just wish we got a bit more of him. I don't feel like. Let's start again. I don't feel like we had too little of him, but it's just I liked him so much as a concept. I just wish we had more of him. I
agree. I did like the ending though. Overall, I thought that was very sweet. I like the fact that we got beat the monster of the week.
Yeah,
but he was happy to be beaten. And
does it fall into the trap of Raiders of the Lost Ark though, which is that the Doctor didn't have to get involved? Because either he would have stayed in that theatre and it wouldn't have mattered because no one else would be affected because he's just there on his own, or he would have eventually escaped and just had that happen anyway.
I mean...
Or was he only able to absorb the sun because he absorbed the regeneration energy from the Doctor?
I don't think that would have been the
case. Because I wasn't sure if the fact that he grew so much was what allowed him to reach out and float off, or whether he could have just done that as is anyway. Because they make a whole deal about how the fact that he doesn't go outside.
And the fact that he'd been shrinking as well.
Oh yeah, good point. I forgot about that.
So maybe he would have shrunk to nothing.
Yeah. But it did beg that question for me of, did the Doctor actually save the day, or would the same event have happened if the Doctor just hadn't got involved in the first place?
I guess the Doctor saved the day as in he saved the people that were caught in the film.
Yeah.
So he did that.
Chalk that up to a win.
Yeah. One thing I did struggle with, though...
Yeah.
...is... I like the fact that Belinda trusted him.
Yeah.
But I don't think she really had a reason to.
What do you mean?
Well, she was like, let's go home.
Yeah.
And he was like, nah, I want to have a look at this.
Yeah.
And then they got trapped in film.
Yeah. I think... do you mean you don't know why she trusts him all of a sudden?
Kind of, yeah. And maybe because he got her out of the film.
I think it's because of...
He has good intentions?
But I think it's because of the whole conversation he had in the diner with the woman, because the camera does focus on Belinda for a second when he asks if the box gives her hope, and they hold hands, and obviously the whole conversation they have with the three Whovians in the room, and obviously, like I say, the Doctor's crying when they say they're not going to exist anymore. I think just that whole sequence shows him that he cares and he does what he can best for people.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah,
so overall, you think positively for this, but it's not your favourite. Would that be fair?
I like it. Maybe I like it more than last week's episode. I don't think I hold it in as high regard as the rest of the community seems to, but I'm really struggling to put a number on this.
I think that's very fair.
I'm really struggling with it.
I agree. I'm very torn about this.
Yeah. And it's not even because I'm like, it's not even like I'm struggling because it's like, oh, I really like this thing, but I don't like this thing, and I'm struggling to find how I balance out on it. I'm just so, because I think I like the episode. I'm not struggling to think if I like it or not. I'm just trying to think, how much do I like it? And I'm having a really hard time working it out.
See, whereas my thing is the whole thing of like, I like it so much, but for me, how I personally would have made it more suitable for me.
Yeah. Do you think this is better than the Robot Revolution?
Oh, that is a good question.
The fact you're thinking about it's interesting, because like I say, from what I've seen online, most people unequivocally have said, yes, this is a step up. or do you think this is better than The Devil's Cord?
Well, that's an interesting question.
In terms of episode 2 and the Doctor facing off against the god of the Pantheon.
I think I like The Devil's Cord more.
Do you?
There's a bit, there's the little bit in The Devil's Cord I don't like.
Okay.
Which is, I don't understand why towards the end the Beatles...
yeah.
I'd like the resolution of that to be a bit different.
Yes.
But I love and I think personally it was slightly placed strangely. I wouldn't have put it as
I agree.
2.
I agree. Yeah.
But I like The Devil's Cord quite a lot, and I like Jinx Monsoon as well.
Okay.
Like brilliant. So I was looking forward to that episode because I knew Jinx was going to be in it, and I know that they're like a huge talent.
You were looking forward to that one because Jinx was in it, and you were looking forward to this one because you know there was an animated sequence. Do you hold that in higher regard because Jinx didn't let you down?
Probably.
With the animated sequence, and this did.
But to be fair, I knew Jinx wasn't going to let me down because their talent is amazing. They've done so much Broadway. I mean, obviously they're generally known for Drag Race, but they've done so much more. And I was like, it's in safe hands. Do you know what I mean? I can trust you're going to do this well. Whereas with this, again, I was like, oh, this is going to be brilliant. And then I didn't get everything I wanted.
That's interesting because even though I'm really struggling with how I feel about this, I do think I like this more than The Devil's Cord. The Devil's Cord for me, maybe our roles are reversed here, but how you feel about the animation, that's how I feel about The Devil's Cord. The whole thing about having a musical focused episode, really interesting. A musical god, having the Beatles in there, great. But I don't think any of that was used to the potential it could have been. Which
is funny because I think I think you hit the nail on the head there, because I would say one of my passions in life is animation.
Yeah.
I love the form, and you love music.
True, yeah.
So maybe that's why. Maybe we're so harsh on these things because we
know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they're at their best.
Either way, I'm loving the gods of the Pantheon. And I'm looking forward to the next one. It was a pleasant surprise.
I wasn't expecting I thought this was going to be more of a horror-focused episode, to be honest. It was a lot more light-hearted than I thought it was going to be.
See, I thought it was going to be light-hearted.
I didn't think it was going to be like horror. Do you know? I wasn't expecting Blink. But again, that initial shot of Mr. Ring-a-Ding coming out of the theatre, even in the cold open in this, I thought it was going to be made out to be a bit more spooky than it actually was.
Yeah, which I also would have been okay for.
Yeah, so it wasn't what I was expecting, but yeah, it was a pleasant surprise to have the laugh.
Yeah.
And for this to be another God of the Pantheon, I'm up for it. I can't wait to see what else comes of it.
I agree.
Yeah, Mrs. Flood making another appearance.
I look forward to seeing what her business is.
Yeah, well, okay.
Because every time I see her, I'm like, who are you? What are you doing?
Batty old lady.
How are you here?
Yeah. Yeah,
but yes.
Cool. Anything else about LUX?
No, nothing else about LUX. However, I will just put a little thing that next week is the second episode that I was very much looking forward to this season or series, which is The Well. Yeah.
I'm surprised you're looking forward to this one, because this is supposed to be a bit of a darker one, which it doesn't tend to be your vibe.
No. But it looks cool. It looks cool.
I thought you were going to have something more deep and philosophical to say. It looks cool.
It looks cool. It looks really creepy. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good.
Yeah.
Just before we wrap up, I really don't have a lot of research about LUX. But it's not that I don't have research, it's that I tried to research. There's just not a lot of information on it.
Not yet, no.
No, I couldn't find working titles. There wasn't much to find. The only something I wanted to mention was obviously Alan Cumming has already been in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. He was King James in The Witchfinders.
Yeah.
He was good there as well. And the only bit of kind of like research I did that resulted in anything interesting was the fact that apparently quite a few of the animators who worked on Mr. Ring-a-Ding on this worked on Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
That makes a lot of sense.
So not just can you see similarities in the animation style, but I think the whole thing of tying in cartoons with live action.
I mean, and
footage.
Also Disney.
Well, yeah.
they have Disney now.
Yeah.
And let's be fair. I mean, I know they're not the be all and end all, but
they pioneered most of the time. You think animation, you tend to think Disney, don't you?
Especially, again, the fact that they did Who Framed Roger Rabbit. They have experience.
That's one of those things. That's the only bit of information I found. I was like, oh, that's really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
And as soon as I read it, I saw it immediately.
Yeah.
And you can tell. Isn't it funny how you can have such a distinctive style that it's like with film directors, how it's like, you might not notice, but as soon as I say, hey, this film's directed by the same person who did this film, and you're like, actually, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like I get that with this, where I can tell just from the expressions that, yeah, okay, that tracks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's all I have for Lux. But thank you all very much for listening. Again, we appreciate you very much. Let us know what you thought of the episode.
Yeah.
Do you vehemently disagree with anything that either of us have said?
Did you hate the animation and think I should get in the bin?
There's no way anyone could hate the animation in this. It's so good.
But I know some people just don't like animation, do they?
Yeah.
So
let us know what you thought. Did you like the meta stuff?
Yeah.
Or was it a step too far? Is Doctor Who officially over? Hashtag RIP Doctor Who. Russell wrote that line in, I'm telling you, just so if people kicked off about the meta stuff, he could just say, that's you.
Yeah. I was going to say, did you feel atted?
It's funny you say that, though, because I didn't.
Me neither.
No. So, okay. I guess that's good.
I was like, am I not a true fan?
Like, I didn't feel atted
I
about
don't
this.
own a meat shirt. Maybe I should.
Yeah, here's me looking at my...
Yeah, you can't say anything.
Of Doctor Who novels, Torchwood books, all the Eagle Moss figures.
Yeah, you thought that their room was very Who.
I mean, for a long time, I had a dual monitor set up on my computer, and my wallpaper was the interior of Matt Smith's second TARDIS.
Yeah.
And it was obviously spanned over the two monitors, so the console was on the right, and then you could just see all the stairs on the left, and yeah. So
I'm surprised you weren't atted, but all right.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you all for listening. We appreciate you very much. Let us know whatever you think, any thoughts you have or you want to share. Drop them down below. Let us know. You can check us out over on YouTube Music, on Spotify, or on Apple Podcasts, whatever your platform of choice is. But we'll see you guys in the next episode, where we'll be taking a trip to the well.
Woo.
But until then, stay safe. Stay away from jovial cartoon characters.
I disagree.
And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Goodbye.